I'm Carrie Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carrie Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carrie Stinson, and as always, I'm thrilled you're here. Get ready. We're going to have so much fun this week. I've been having so much fun getting ready for this interview. We have Ivy Austin, singer-performer. Wait to hear all the things that she's done in her career and is continuing to do in her career. She's done some really cool stuff with Sesame Street, which we are going to talk about, and so much more. Ivy, how are you?
Hello, Carrie. I'm great. I'm great. A little bit chilly. I don't know. It turned to fall overnight, but I'm good. And thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show. I'm really happy to be here.
We love happy people, and watching the work that you've done just made me happy. Watching a lot of the stuff you've done. And it's funny you say cold there, because this is the magic of the internet. I'm in Texas, and it's very hot here today. So we've got the opposite.
You know, I swore I wasn't going to complain about the heat of the summer because I knew it was just going to go. And then I would, so I'm a little bit in shock today because the winds are crazy. I'm in New York City, but it's just been a wild transformation from summer to fall overnight. But here we are. We don't feel a thing here on the internet, right?
That's right. That's exactly it. Well, we were talking, and you said, how you've recreated yourself so many times in your career, which is what happens in this industry. And so I can't wait to talk about all those things. But singer and performer, you've done so much. I want to kind of go back. I want to find out, where did the singer performer come from? Was this just in you from an early age?
Well, I do have one of those born in a trunk stories. And for those of you folks out there who don't know what I'm talking about, no, I was not actually born inside a trunk, but it's a theatrical metaphor. There was the movie Star is Born. Anyway, I was basically born into this business. My father, Danny Epstein, was a percussionist, and family legend has it that as soon as I was 10 weeks old, my mother took me and all the paraphernalia that you need for a baby to join my father on the road, and he was playing Broadway shows at the time. So I grew up, certainly for the first 5 years of my life, on tour with Flower Drum Song and My Fair Lady and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And I really, the theater is really in my blood, and I can't get it out.
No. It's once it's in there, it's in there.
Absolutely. It's here to stay. And I do have a memory of taking some ballet lessons in the hotel rooms with a couple of the dancers that were in the shows, and setting my hair in front of the mirror, trying to look like Diane Cannon, who was actually the star of How to Succeed in that production. I remember sitting in front of the mirror, just kind of getting everything just right so I could be a star in the hotel room. Yeah. So
I love it. I mean, how amazing is that to grow up into that? I mean, I know you're saying a little bit of it. Yeah. How much do you remember of those times?
Well, I certainly remember a lot of lyrics, that's for sure. And I have vague memories of cities and hotel rooms. I mean, there were so many, and being plopped into a nursery school here and there if we were to be in a city for a long time. And there aren't that many photos of our family from that period. It wasn't like it is now, where people photograph every minute of being
Right.
alive on the earth. So I do remember the steamer trains vaguely. I do have a couple of photos of that, sitting in the train car among cast members, and I was just always agog. I loved every minute of it, and there was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to go into show business. That was that.
Which is really what it takes. It really takes that. If you just like, it's happening. One way or the other, it's happening. That's usually when it does happen.
Yeah, I tell you that that dream that many of us have, when we're young, it is so powerful. It enabled me to go through life with blinders on until the business got real for me, and I experienced, not only the ups but the downs. But it's funny, when you're young and you have a dream and you have a passion, nothing else exists. You just go for it, and that's how my childhood was, with my ballet lessons, and then I started taking acting lessons, and eventually, when I was a tween or teen, taking voice lessons, and realizing, oh, I like this singing thing. That's what I really want to do. And it just was always a big part of my life.
Well, it turned out to be a big part.
Yes, yes. It sure did. Yes, for better and for worse. Yes.
Well, and we know that, and we talk about that on this show.
Yeah.
The aspects of that, of hearing no, and you can be doing great, and then you don't know what happened, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then you're doing great again. I mean, there's just a lot of that craziness that happens in this business.
Yeah, I had mentioned to you earlier that I have taught a bit as well, and that is something, when I speak to high school kids, or when I speak to college kids, young adults, I try to explain, the amount of resilience that is necessary to survive in this business, because there are various expectations and constructs that we're all trying to fit into. And when you go to an audition and you see, my God, there are 100 people just like me. I thought I was it. I thought I was the one. It's a real awakening, and you realize there are so many things that go into people's decisions about casting. So it's not necessarily about how you sing the song or read the script, but do you fit into somebody else's image of what they want this character to be? And so there's this whole unknown piece when you walk into a room. And so I try and be real about the business, but of course, if it's what you want to do, then do it.
Right. Well, and you're exactly right. I'm glad you said it that way, because it is the truth. A lot of times there is no, but it has nothing really to do with you, right? It's just you didn't fit into what someone saw, the vision, or the this or that. And so as you go through this business and you get to that point where you realize that it's hard when you're starting out, you're hard when you're like, oh, I'm going to go nail this. And you may have nailed it, but they just saw someone else in that position.
Yeah, but then, the pain in your heart that you have to deal with. Yeah, so you have to be a real survivor. And part of, one of my coping mechanisms for survival in this business has been reinvention. And I know earlier you asked, how should I introduce you?
Yes.
You've been a singer, you've been an actor, you've been a voiceover person, you've been a director, a writer.
Right, because some people come on and they're just an actor, or they're a voiceover, or they have a specific thing. And you look at your bio, you're like, well, wait a minute, there is no box here, right? It is,
There is no box, right? And that's something that works for me, as I urge people to do, paint the whole canvas, because in this business that's full of unknowns and ever changing, as you know, everything is really being shaken up right now. There's no straight line. You don't go from here to there. You just don't.
well, and also, don't you think that it makes you a better performer or singer or writer or producer if you are doing all these different things, right? From TV to maybe kids TV to Broadway to all of these things. Doesn't it really just make you a better performer, actor, singer, whatever it may be that you're doing?
Well, I can only hope so. I do hope so. Yes, I feel multidimensional. But also I am a bit older now, or let's just say mature, whatever
Yes.
that means.
I know.
Or
Yeah.
seasoned.
Yes. Yes.
Now I realize the importance of that, to
Right.
have this, to try different things in this business. And my mother always said, go where you're wanted. And it took me a while to figure out what she meant. And sometimes you just keep, banging your head against the wall, or banging, let me in, let me in. And somebody off to the side says, here, let me open this door for you. Would you like to come in and try this? And it took me a while, but then I thought, yeah, okay, all right. And then another door might open and somebody said, well, you did that, but do you do this? And I thought, do I do that? Well, I know it's in there somewhere. I know the skills are in there somewhere. I'll say yes, and then I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Well, that's another big part of this as well, as I've talked about it. I'd never been in a costume before. Before the Barney, I had never been in a costume. I was a musician. Someone knew I was in the entertainment business and said, you should go to that audition. And that's basically what I did. And throughout the whole thing, they would go, well, can you dance? Sure, I can dance. I couldn't dance. I had to go get my mom. She's a professional dancer and she helped me do it. And so I just kept finding ways. I was just not going to be denied. Once I finally got in that door, I was not going to be denied. And I just had to learn and teach and grow and do all of those things.
Right. You allowed yourself to grow. Right. It's not about saying yes to things that are absolutely foreign to you and you're not qualified to do.
Right.
But if you get it, if you have some of the pieces and the desire and the intellect to kind of pull them together, then you have to keep saying yes. That's how you grow.
Absolutely. So I'm curious. I know how we talked about how you started out in this business. Was there a point when you went, okay, I'm gonna, whether did you go to school for this? Did you just start, going on auditions, or how did you go into being a professional?
Okay. Well, let's see, early on, I mean, I guess I was, okay, my first professional experience, you're not going to believe this, is talk about starting up here and then going, when I was a little ballet girl, and the Bolshoi Ballet was in town. And I think I was studying at ballet theater at the time. And they came to the class and observed everybody. And I can't remember how some of us were hired, or if there was an audition or whatever it was. I was cast in a production called Ballet School that was performed at the Metropolitan Opera House.
Wow.
With the Bolshoi. There were, I think, 6 of us that were in one cast, and then, in opera, everything is double cast or triple cast, right?
Sure.
So I think I was in the B cast. So hey, talk about an awakening, right? Already at 11, I was in the B cast. And I did my performances with the Bolshoi, and I thought, okay, this is the beginning, at the Metropolitan Opera House. And then I rarely talk about this, but I remember there was a girl in my neighborhood in Queens who was on commercials and things. She was kind of, a theater kid. So my mother found out what her mother was doing. And my mother was not, a showbiz mother, whatever that is.
Right.
So what that is, if you have one.
Right.
And she did manage to get me an agent, and I did a commercial when I was 14, I think, for Arrow shirts. Do they make Arrow shirts anymore? I don't even know. But and then maybe there were a couple little things here and there, but that really, took a stab as kind of a kid performer, but that really wasn't my thing. And then I was serious about acting, and I got into the High School of Performing Arts, the Fame School, before it was called Fame. And before the movie, that is, I was in the drama department there, and that was amazing. And I had wonderful training. And then when I was 16, I wound up being cast in some roles in summer stock. So I guess that was between my junior and senior years of high school. I went out to Gateway Playhouse on Long Island, where many theater people get their start. And I played Nanette in No No Nanette, and I think, and I played Snow White. What a surprise with my high little voice. And then I the same thing again, after my senior year, I did some more summer theater. But then before I really went for it, I decided to go to school for something else entirely. I went off to college. I went to Colgate. I studied biology, because at that point, I was kind of drowning in theater instruction, and I thought, okay, I need a breather here. And I know that there's a little bit more out there, and I want to do something kind of normal and something more academic. I do like my academics. So at the end of my freshman year, a friend called me, and he had been on the road with an equity production of the show Hair.
And explain what that is.
Okay, that's the theatrical union. And there are some people that have great careers never joining a union, but I always wanted to be a union member and be a part of Actors Equity. I had already, because of some earlier voiceover work and commercial stuff, I was already a member of SAG and AFTRA, the other unions, but and they were two separate unions at that point. And he said, and I think I was studying for finals or something. He said, "Can you get down to the city? The girl who's playing Chrissy, who's saying, I met a boy called Frank Mills, was leaving, and they need a Chrissy. And can you be here tomorrow and sing the song?" And I said, "I don't know, but yes." Because yes. I don't have any memory of how I got there, but I got there, and I was hired to go out on the road on a bus and truck tour of the show Hair, and play the role of Chrissy, during my summer vacation. So that was, I guess, the beginning of my professional union theater work.
I love it. You just kind of mentioned it. You have a distinctive voice. Has that been something that's helped you? Does it hurt you? Has it worked, sometimes good, sometimes bad?
Funny you should say that. Yes, that when I was at the High School of Performing Arts. Now, this is a long time ago already, and the way that theatrical training was approached was very different. There was a lot of emphasis on voice and diction.
And so we were trained to speak like this, because when you are in the theater, you project. And the voice and diction people, basically, one teacher told me I was really never going to work with my ugly, squeaky little voice. So there you go. There you go. I mean, and again, everybody's got an opinion,
right,
of who you are and what you do, and is it, and like, is my voice too high? Is it too low? Am I, is my nose too big? Is it too small? I mean, am I too fat? I'm just, it just goes on and on and on.
It does. It absolutely does. But I've got to think there's been times it's benefited you.
Well, clearly for the Sesame Street stuff, and then right. Yes, for the work I've done with with animation, yes, then it's been a real gift. And in terms of stage work, when I played Raggedy Ann on Broadway, obviously I could speak in my own voice, or actually was even a little bit higher, like this, right. A little sweeter. But I think that I was, ruled out of certain roles, and certain, I was not seen as an ingenue ever, because I guess ingenues have lower voices. I don't know. I mean, it's
Well, I'm dying to know, and I know everyone else watching this is dying to know, where did Sesame Street, where did this come from? And if you haven't seen these videos, they're just precious. They're just amazing, just amazing. And I know they can go to your website and find a bunch of these videos.
There are, well, first of all, thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate that. Sesame Street was kind of I will call it the family business. My right. father, Danny Epstein, was the music coordinator. And I'm going to show you something. I have him right here.
Oh, I love this. Oh my gosh.
Have him. This was a gift after 40 years from the Muppets to my dad. And
how special is that?
Wait a minute. I don't know if you can see. Here are the drumsticks as well.
Gosh.
Very important that he have his drumsticks. So my dad was on the original team of people. I guess that would have been 1969, working with Joe Raposo. And so Joe, as Sesame Street fans know, wrote the theme song for Sesame Street and gazillions of songs. And eventually, my dad let it be known that he just happened to have a daughter who sang. And, I was invited to be on a couple recordings, some background vocals with some amazing people. I was just, woo! In a whole other league, but I did kind of grow up in the recording studio. And then, there really were not female Muppeteers that I knew that worked on Sesame Street other than Fran Brill. Mm-hmm. And so when there were other characters that would come along, or I've never manipulated, I'm not a puppeteer. Okay. But if there were songs that were written for oddball Muppet characters, special guest type Muppets.
Right.
I was lucky enough, I was right there, and then I was hired to do the recordings. And then I wound up having a career in the business outside of that, and kept getting invited back to do other things. And it's funny, for many years, I was so uncomfortable because coming in there it's Danny's daughter.
Right.
Oh. But then at a point I realized I had earned my stripes, and I did have a career of my own, but it took me a long time to feel at ease.
I can totally understand that.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. When you came in, it had to have been, at that point, Sesame Street was huge.
Yeah, from my memory, it was also because my father was working there, and because we were close with the Raposo family as well, it was just always part of life at home and work. And that's why I say it's family business, there's just, sure, there's a lot of crossover. And of course, when you go into a studio as really a singer for hire, there's no way you could ever imagine the magnitude of these recordings and the life that these recordings have taken on, and the people who I've met, and the people that write to me, and I keep exchanges going with. It's, yeah. Well, look, I'm sure that you've experienced this thing. The number of lives that you've touched in your career. Could you have imagined it when you were actually doing it?
No, I didn't. And I always say this, I also didn't know how much they would touch my life. Right. I didn't understand, when you go out, and we did lots of Make-A-Wishes, we did lots of meet and greets, behind the scenes, kids on, I had no idea. I was 23 years old when I got into it. And so, to be honest with you, I was looking for a job.
Of course.
Right. That's what you're doing. You're looking for a job. And then all of a sudden, I've been doing it for a while, and they said, we're going to take you to the character to a hospital. And that was a life-changing experience. I mean, I'd never seen kids to that extreme of illness, and how positive they were, right? When Barney came in the room, they smiled and their friend was there. And obviously you see parents get emotional and all of those things. And so, I always took it seriously, but that day I understood the responsibility of it, and that, when Barney appears, it's really Barney, it's not me, and what it takes to make that character happen and all of those things. And I had I was very lucky to start from the beginning as well. So it wasn't big when I first started. And then all of a sudden, as you're talking about magnitude, all of a sudden, the world knows who Barney is. So it's an amazing experience. And obviously I've been very fortunate to work with some people from Sesame Street. I worked with Carol Spinney, and I got to meet a lot of them. And I just, as a kid, I loved them. And then when you meet them and they're exactly what you hoped they would be, and maybe even more, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I do remember when I was very young and going into the studio and doing some background vocals for Jim Henson. I mean, come on, right? And for Jerry Nelson, and for more than singing a tune that Frank Oz was going to be on. Amazing. So, but getting back to, look, you want a job, you want to work.
Right.
Always want to work in this business. And so I would go into the studio. I mean, this was my job.
Right.
If I hired, that's what I would just go in, and that was my goal, to do the best possible job I could with those songs.
Right.
And as I've revealed to some other folks, I did not get credited for much of the work that I did. And it was always such a sore spot, but there was nothing I could do about it. I wasn't an official cast member.
Right.
More of a ringer in the studio.
Right.
And then eventually, when I was a bit older, I did see, and I was thrilled, my name on the back of some albums and CDs were when I had done some solo tunes, but a lot were uncredited, and I was kind of sour grapes about it. But then came the internet.
And that's what happened here, by the way, is that fans of this show, said, please, we want Ivy Austin on. Sesame Street, right? So they found you.
Thank you.
They found you.
Well, the internet, it's the great equalizer. It's the great truth teller, we hope.
Right.
And then there were sites like Muppet Wiki, where people who really care about Sesame Street have researched every episode and every song. And eventually I started to see things popping up online, and I realized, wow, okay, better late than never. So it took another 20 years, but I'm really delighted that I've been, outed as Hammy Swinette and Soo-ey Oinker, and the voice of my purple bucket, and one singular sensation. And I mean, I could go on, because there's so many fun songs that I got to sing. But that was the real capper to actually just to have my name attached to these performances now has meant more than you can imagine.
I can't imagine. I think it's amazing. I'm curious. So you're singing these songs, And you know what you're doing, right? For a cow or a horse or a chicken right? I mean, does all that go in your head when you're doing this? Are you just singing the way you sing, or what direction are you given, and what's on your head when you're performing this?
Well, believe it or not, many recordings were done kind of blindly, in that I wasn't even sure. I'd have a piece of music.
Sure.
I have my lyric. I didn't have. I had no idea what the puppets were going to look like.
Right.
Had not a clue. Or sometimes we'd go in, if I was doing background vocals, I would be with 3 or 4, 2, 3, 4 other singers, and had no idea what these characters were going to be. I guess they were all going to be anything Muppets. And then sometime, years later, I'd turn on the show and I'd see a song and I think, okay, wait, I think that's my voice there. Oh, I remember that now. And then it all comes to life. And I think, wow. Once in a while, I would have direction. For instance, for Mariah Cowie. Okay,
yes, I love that.
I was told, okay, it's kind of, the song is it was a takeoff of one of her hits of the day,
Right.
So I, scramble and listen and try and pick up a few things that maybe I could infuse into my performance. I mean, same with Hammy Swinette. So I would, I'd listen to I kind of say Tammy Wynette. Okay. I listen, not Tammy Swinette. No. Right. Tammy Wynette and Hammy Swinette. So I would listen and again pick up a few things, or if it was a character that was supposed to be on Broadway, so I had my Broadway voice. Or when I did the Sublime Miss M, which was a takeoff on Bette Midler's The Divine Miss M, I started listening to Bette Midler and a little bit of Sophie Tucker to try and get that just a little essence. Never an imitation. I wouldn't dare.
Sure.
Just an essence, or the joy that I feel when I hear those people sing. Try and bring that in.
I love it, and people don't understand how hard that is to do that.
You don't really think about that really when you're there in front of the microphone. I'm thinking, okay, time is money. I'm in the recording studio. I gotta know my stuff and just let her rip and get this done.
Right.
And a lot of things were done pretty quickly, because they most of the stuff there were a couple of studios involved. Most of the stuff was at NOLA Recording, which is closed now, unfortunately. And Jim Zach, fantastic, and John Post, just wonderful people who owned and operated the studio. Just guys with great ears. And as performers, we can nitpick till the cows come home and try and make our performances perfect. But what it really is about is having somebody on the other end with great ears, after one take or two, said, that's it, we've got it. That's it. Next. Because it's business. It's business. And it's not about perfection. It's about getting something really good that works, that sounds alive, that's got heart in it. I mean, I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but sometimes when I'm too much of a perfectionist, I risk losing the heart
of
performance.
It's interesting you say that, though. We've never talked about this on this episode, on this show, but it is a business. And I kind of learned that when I started with Barney. I was doing a little bit of both. So I was doing the performances, but I also did a lot of the PR work. And so I was with the TV people at times and the road people, but then I was also in the office with the PR people and the things of that nature. And both sides didn't always understand each other. Right. And it's important, if you can, as we were talking about earlier, that sometimes you know because of this or this or this, it has nothing to do personally. And as an artist, we take that so seriously. But on the business side, they don't really see that, right? It's just a business decision. It's not a personal decision. So have you been able, because I've never really asked this, but, going through that path of the business, creative, and, keeping your career alive and understanding, I've got to work, but at the same time, I got to do stuff that I want to do, and balancing that.
I think I've spent my entire life trying to get the right balance. And I know so many people who do the same, because this is the beast that
Right.
we deal with. It's something, it's all about never knowing where the next job is coming from, the next paycheck. I've been extremely fortunate. I have no complaints. I have been so fortunate. But I've lived a life filled with angst over that. And always trying to make the next thing happen, make something else come alive. Like when this piece kind of is failing, or just kind of fading to black, quick, come up with something else, keep tap dancing, stay in the game.
But you seem like you've done it.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm sort of. I'm in sort of a different game right now.
Right. Because you became a therapist.
I did, and I, although I do try and keep my foot in show business, or
Right.
toe.
Sure.
Whatever piece of me the business will still take or
Sure.
welcome.
Sure.
If something comes across my plate, I'm there in terms of performance. But I got to the point where the whole audition thing, it weighs heavy on a person. I, of course, was able to balance that with having a family. I've always had a lot of pieces of
Sure.
the puzzle, a lot of things going on at the same time. But I thought, well, you know what? Now there's not enough work in the business for me, or in show business, or work that I feel like I can get at this point, or
Right.
work that I could really feel excited about
Right.
in. So I went back to school, and I became a therapist, and there's actually a lot of crossover between performing or certainly singing from my heart, and talking to people sincerely, and having that kind of exchange. I mean, it's very similar. It's all about hopefully reaching somebody, and you can move the needle just
Right.
a little bit, change somebody's perspective on something, or even better, make somebody feel better about themselves or their life. So that's what we do as performers too, right? It's the same
thing. You want to give something.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting. You said it. I went back to school and became a photographer. After
Wow, congrats.
22 years of Barney, I needed to try something else. And
Yeah.
it kind of launched me in a whole other place. I can still be creative, but very differently than what I did before. But it brought a lot of joy to me, and it's taken me in a different way. And then, of course, this podcast, I had no clue this was going to happen, but I got asked to be on a podcast and about photography, funny enough. And someone said, well, what did you used to do? And I mentioned the Barney story, and that ended up launching a podcast because people wanted to hear these stories. So you just never know where it's going to take you, which I think is, I know it's scary at times, but it's also fun about this industry.
Yes, I don't know. I don't know if I use the word fun, but
It is stressful. It is, I'm with you on all those things, but yeah. Okay, maybe when you get to, it was the same thing. I mean, I fought forever. I fought for a long time to get the Barney job before I finally did. And then once it finally, but there was a lot of stressful time, and there was a lot of fighting, and there was a lot of that stuff, to prove yourself and all those things.
Sure. But how lucky we are
Yeah.
to have had or to just have those moments in the sun where you're and by that I mean being able to do what you love at
Well, on the internet here, as you say, those videos, those things that you did will always be out there.
yeah.
And they affect people. And, just looking at them, all I did was smile. I mean, it just makes you happy.
Yeah.
And you did that for people. And I think that's just so special. And you always have that. Wherever you go, whatever you do, you've done something that brings a lot of joy.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I guess the beauty of it is that I am learning more. I'm learning every day from somebody else that that I've given somebody joy. That was the great unknown. I mean, who knew a million years ago when I started?
Well, such a different time. I mean, when we did this show, same kind of thing. I started getting all these letters and emails and from people that were affected by Barney and in ways that, I had no idea, because when we were doing the show, well, we didn't have all this, right? We didn't have all the cell phones and things of that nature. And they kind of kept us pretty quiet of who we were in the early days. And so no one even knew who I was. And I was living in Dallas, Texas, and you basically went to production and you went home. So, you had this cool, fun life, but no one knew.
Well, just so you know, thank you for all the joy that you brought to our family. I mean, I've grown sons, but Barney was always there, just this incredibly gentle creature. So gentle, so kind, so loving. So thank you for all the joy you've given to us and to so many people.
Well, my pleasure. And it's been such an incredible experience, So what's kind of next for you? What's the next chapter?
Oh, the next chapter, I would like to be able to work with more performers in terms of mental health, because I'm working with a particular population now, but perhaps down the road, I would like to be working with this community that I know so well, I understand so well, and I feel like I could bring that to the business. I mean, I don't know, it's a long shot. Will I ever be on Broadway again? Doubtful.
doubtful, unless it's a, a revival, a one-time only revival of something like, I mean, who knows?
But
But
who knows? Who knows is a very good point. You just don't know.
you don't know. You don't know. Unlikely that I'll be doing 8 shows a week.
Okay, I got you.
Let's just go with that.
I got you.
But I do have this need to stay connected with the theatrical community or the voiceover community, whoever, they're my people.
Right.
And now that I have skills in an entirely different area, I would just love to be able to bring it all together and help.
I love that. I think that would be amazing. Well, we've talked so much about your singing. Is there any way I can get you to sing something? Sing a little for us.
Well, just a little bit. How's just like a line or two of what my international hit, Soo-ey Oinker, and the Oinker sisters. I think a lot of you out there will probably know, I got a new way to walk, walk, walk. I got a new way to walk, walk, walk. That's, I was trying to do my little walk, walk that the Muppets do.
Oh my gosh.
But I just want to give a shout out to all you folks out there that were touched by Sesame Street, and thank you for letting me be a part of your lives. I really am humbled and grateful.
Well, Ivy, it's just been an absolute pleasure.
Same here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I will be I've been thinking about a new way to walk all weekend, and I'll be smiling. And I just love it.
But you have to go like this. Walk, walk. All right.
Oh, guys. Well, good luck to you with everything. And thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. And all the best to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you next week.